I call this meeting to order, please. At this time, may we have the roll call?
Commissioner Bennick.
Here.
Commissioner Chapman.
Here.
Commissioner Hallen.
Here.
Commissioner Ryan.
Here.
Commissioner Watts. Vice Chair Summers.
Here.
Chair Blair.
Here. Will we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to have a approval of the consent agenda, and that is just the minutes of the meetings. Is that correct? Okay.
Move to approve.
I have one motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay. And all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay. That is approved. May we have current events?
Certainly. The general plan information sessions are going on now. You can give input into what you want to see in the general plan. The Valley Vista High School from 7 to 9 tomorrow night. Or you can go on Saturday to Willow Canyon from 1 to 3. If you cannot attend a meeting, we do have cards that we're giving out, and I'll pass these around, that if you want to give input onto the village concept of the general plan, you can go on our website, www.surpriseaz.com, and click on the general plan, and you can have, there are a series of questions that you can answer about what you'd like to see. And I think we would like for people, if they can attend a meeting, to please come to our website and respond there. I'd also like to say that we got some national recognition and Public Manager Magazine, surprise, analysis plus commitment equals real results, and that was our change in the permit process and what's happening there, and some of what the staff has done to make the permitting process better. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you.
Oh, excuse me, one more thing. You will see a little bit different staff report in here, and we'll talk a little bit about that at the next meeting when we talk about how we're going to approach these things. And you'll see some suggested motions and some findings.
I think it's very positive, so I'm glad to see it. At this time, we're going to move on to SP07-339. Mr. Wingard.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, Commissioners. Tonight I'm bringing before you SP07-339, Surprise Professional Village. The location of this is along Grand Avenue, just south of the Sun City Grand, closer in here. It is across the street from the medical facility in Sun City West and is nestled in the Colonnade Project right along Yorkshire Drive. This is the site plan. I'm going to move on to the landscape plan just to show you what's going on here. There's a series of 7 buildings through here with access off of Yorkshire Drive. Landscaping acting as a buffer all around. And this project also is providing a 8-foot sidewalk along Grand Avenue, hopefully to provide a more of pedestrian-friendly Grand Avenue. In the 7 buildings, they have 6 different architectural styles. And these are all going to be complementary of each other. They're going to have common design elements so that they work together and provide a village atmosphere. This is one of the typical buildings, and then I wanted to show you a couple of the other buildings that will be within this village. And we have a typical rendering here showing off of Yorkshire Drive. And that concludes my presentation, barring any questions you may have.
Very good. Vice Chair Summers, you have
No questions.
Commissioner Ryan.
From a safety standpoint, am I correct? There's no deceleration lane from going southbound on Grand into the project?
Yes, that is true, yes.
And how do you envision, a lot of this is going to be for medical office, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, professional offices, medical, yes.
My concern is the older clientele seeing signage to enter into the project. Can you take me through what steps you would envision to relieve the safety issue there?
With the size of the signage and that sort of thing, is that what you're discussing, or?
Whatever the plans are.
Okay. Well, right now, the signage that they are proposing is by our code currently. Code prohibits any signage of over 10 feet, and the lettering on here will be reviewed at time of sign is done. But I'd like to add that currently the city is visiting the sign code, because as the city's growing, we believe that we are growing out of our current sign code. We have the 303 coming through, and a 10-foot sign along 303 wouldn't have much face value at all. And so we're looking at that currently to see if that should be adjusted. For the 303, having overlays for Grand Avenue, also arterials. But for this project, they are going by code on that.
Will we get a chance to review the signage when they come before us for the plat or the site?
Well, no, this is going to be the last time you see this. This is, unless they do plat these office condominiums, then you'll see a condo plat. But signage is approved administratively, and we strictly go by code on that.
Okay.
Commissioner Chapman.
I just would like to ask a similar question about a deceleration lane.
Yes.
I noticed that in previous projects along Grand Avenue that we've endorsed those, or I'm not sure if they were required or not, such as like Trader Joe's and some others along that corridor. Is there a reason that we're not doing it for this?
Well, there is a traffic study that was done by the applicant and reviewed by our staff as well as the ADOT, and they didn't feel, due to the amount of traffic that came here, that would be necessary. We're also hoping that a lot of this is going to be foot traffic from Sun City Grand. That's the sidewalks and trail systems to that. But it was felt by our department that wasn't necessary to have that turn lane.
And another question is that there is, I'm not sure if there's an access road that comes from the west to the end of the project from Mountain View. Is that going to be developed, or is that a trail that you're speaking of, or what are we?
Currently, that dead ends down here. There's a storage facility down here, but it dead ends. But there is a potential that could punch through at some time. But at this time, it's not being looked at. There's really not enough activity here that would warrant having that go all the way through. But there are a couple other lots that are here that potentially will be developed. And when more density comes in like that, we will revisit that issue.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Howland.
I guess on the same subject, because they didn't show any details for Grand Avenue, will you be able to make a left turn off of Grand onto Yorkshire? Is that a possible movement right now?
At this point, yes. Now, as you may know, that Grand Avenue, ADOT is currently exploring the ideas about expanding and widening Grand Avenue. And we don't know what those plans are yet, but they're required during this phase, as well as the next phase of construction, to work with ADOT. You notice the ADOT letter in your package here.
No, that's what concerned me a little, because this is really difficult to get into.
Yes.
And if you can't make a left turn, it isn't even really accessible to the fire department.
Well, at the current time, it is ADOT right-of-way, and we're talking with them, but we can't really dictate what's going to happen there at this time. So it's a potential that could become a right-in, right-out.
Is Yorkshire Yorkshire, whatever, even a developed road?
It is. It's paved in through there at this point. It leads back to I believe there's a water facility back there and a mini storage at this point.
Was there any consideration given to connecting all of these little developments on Grand together? You've got the Hampton Inn there now and what, a Denny's, and then a field, and then this development. There'll be no interconnectivity within the parking or.
Well, that field you're speaking of that's to the south here is going to be the Colonnade Villas. They have come in already, and they're going to be 4-story multifamily housing in through there. And there will be connectivity through along Grand Avenue for pedestrian. That's where the 8-foot sidewalk is coming in, and the Colonnade will be providing that as well, so that this will provide connectivity to the Colonnade and the areas down towards Reams.
You said there was a chance that Yorkshire Drive might be connected to Mountain View. Is that public right away now?
Right now, there is one piece of it, a triangular piece that prevents it to punch all the way through. There would have to be negotiations with the property owner, which I believe is the Colonnade, to take that area.
That's where there's a storage area there too. Or
There's a storage area on the north and the Colonnade on the south. But that issue will be revisited as this area becomes developed. You'll notice that over to the east of this area, there's lots available, as well as the other side of the street.
But what I hear you say is that we have no real resolution on how that this street is going to have any kind of decent access.
This potentially could be just a right in, right out. That is correct.
And then where does their fire service come from?
I would have to ask the fire department on that issue. I don't know if I can. Can I ask one of the fire development?
Good evening, through the chair. I haven't had a whole lot of exposure to this particular project, but this whole area poses some kind of difficulty for us, regardless of what we do, just because of the layout of the property. We've worked extensively with the development, with the Colonnade and that for access. Right now, Grand Avenue is the only way, the viable way this works. I don't know if there are any other opportunities. And so far as what happens at Grand Avenue, I don't know what will happen. But yeah, the fire service would have to come from, if they cut us off on Grand Avenue, right now we would have to come from the west, or certainly have to go down Grand Avenue and make a U-turn or something. But there's not a whole lot of options for us here.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
Commissioner Bennick?
I have no questions.
I have no questions either. This does not require a public hearing, so at this time I'd like to ask for an action, please.
I move to approve SP 07-339, site for Surprise Professional Village, subject to stipulations A through I and findings of fact.
And may I have a second?
Second.
And Commissioner Summers, would you start the voting?
Yes.
No.
Commissioner Chapman?
Yes.
Commissioner Howland?
No.
Commissioner Bennick?
Yes.
I also yes. Moving on to CUP 07-297 and Mr. Copeland.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the Commission. This is a presentation for the Diamond Resort, located on the northeast corner of Parkview and Paradise. You can see here this is a planned resort-style living project that will include a mix of assisted living facility as well as more of a market for senior living. The project is located amongst the residences at Stadium Village, which is located to the east, which was recently approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The lofts at Parkview located to the north. And further surrounding the site, the hotel, the Marriott, the Holiday Inn Express to the east along Bullard, and the office development to the north, Shea Commercial, which is currently under construction. Further planned project in the area include a restaurant pad that's on Bell Road in Parkview. MidFirst Bank is also planned, and there's a site plan amendment that's currently submitted that will bring in the 17-acre Crestone site, which is designated as the commercial, entertainment, and retail-based component of Stadium Village. Here you can see the site a little closer, how it lies with the dimensions between the residential to the existing residential to the west and the surrounding projects to the north and to the east. The project will be accessed off of Parkview Road as well as Paradise Lane to the south. And the architecture, they came in with the proposal originally to city staff about a year, maybe close to a year ago. And the planned area development, which is the orchards, allows for a assisted living use in Stadium Village. And we had some concern on the use, the design, the intensity of the site, looking at the PAD. And because the project, the Stadium Village project is designed, it's actually a 70-acre site. To have a successful mixed-use component, which the PAD designates for this area is a 70 acres of a mixed use, which could include educational, retail, office, residential, owner-occupied residential, even assisted living, and even senior housing. The Crestone site is going to come in certain studies that were done to have a successful mixed-use node, entertainment node in a city about this size. You need between 10 to 15 acres. It would be very difficult to develop the entire 70 acres as retail and entertainment. It's a very large chunk of property, so we're really concentrating on the 17-acre Crestone site, which is currently being amended right now. To go through the architecture, staff, along with the some discussions we had on the site design, the PAD requires that this site is designed as an urban center with substantial amenities, with urban atmosphere. Along Paradise Lane, the elevation, it's going to be a 4-story building. And as you can see, they came in with a variety of materials, roofline variation, and what we call 4-sided architecture. Here's another elevation off of Parkview. And here's the southwest elevation, which you'll see on the corner on Parkview and Paradise. This exhibit portrays what it's going to look like in perspective. They're proposing to have a sky bridge connect the two buildings with substantial amenities, both internal and external. And actually there was a recent, I wouldn't say a revelation, but a lot of these resort-style communities that are throughout the nation, they didn't have tot lots because they were designed for a certain market. Staff worked with the applicant to put a tot lot in there because we felt that grandchildren will come, kids will come, and they won't have anywhere to go. So the applicant, is, for the first time, my understanding is going to put a tot lot in there for kids as well as when they visit. The market, the way it is now, it's definitely a market. There's right now we're in the baby boom era. There's quite a market for this. This would be our first resort-style community in the city of Surprise. Sun City Grand is quite different. It has single-family detached homes. This will include substantial amenities, both external and internal. And there will be independent living, a lot of disposable income, as well as the assisted living component of it. Later on, we'll have the applicant come up and explain more of the use and add to the presentation. But through the process, through the zoning, staff is recommending this project for approval. And at this time, what I would like to do is have Lynn Lagarde from the Diamond Resort, she's the applicant with Oakley Lagarde, come up and continue the presentation. Pull this up here. There you go.
Can you bring it out so that we show the whole part to the perfect? Yeah, I think that's really good. For your record, Lynn Lagarde, Earl Curly Lagarde, 3101 North Central in Phoenix. With me is Rick Torres, planning consultant who has worked with us on this case. Also behind me, Les and Jason. You want to just raise your hands? This is the father and son, the family ownership of the Avenir Group from Canada, who are proposing, introducing this find development to your community, and Lance Barnett, our architect, who's available if you have any additional questions. I want to be first very clear on exactly what it is we are requesting, because I think there's been a little confusion as to why do we even need a conditional use permit. We need a conditional use permit because technically under your ordinance we meet the definition of a congregate care facility. And let me just read you a part of that so you'll understand why we're before you. A facility designed for individuals who pay for some congregate services, including housekeeping, transportation, and meals as part of their monthly rental fee or rate. However, we are a use that is not really congregate care. We have a small component of this project, up to 88 units out of the 340 or so that we have, that would provide enhanced services. We are not technically assisted living in the way you're used to assisted living. We don't have Alzheimer's, but we do have personal care services for those residents who started here and may need them as they get a little older and their needs changed. We were initially told by staff that we didn't need a conditional use permit because we are essentially luxury resort retirement living. We are a senior housing. We're geared to retirees, active young retirees, but we're not restricted to the retiree community. But again, when you look at your ordinance, it's clear that we meet that definition. And no matter how dated this ordinance is and how dated other ordinances in this valley and state are, they are nonetheless there. So this is why we're before you. Otherwise, we'd just be here for a site plan approval. Again, I think it's really important to understand what this community is not. It is not assisted living. Assisted living is where my 88-year-old mother lives because she can no longer fix her own meals, she can no longer drive, and she needs that personal care with bathing, etc., with getting dressed in the morning. Again, that is a care-based choice of a place to live. It's based on the care I need. This is a lifestyle choice for active young retirees, and again, it is not age restricted. This is a luxury resort community, but we're not single family. I can go to Terra Vita and live in a country club setting where it's mostly retirees, and I have to buy a certain amount of my meals in their country club. That's how it works on a single family basis. We are a multifamily luxury resort community. Again, we market to retirees, but not exclusively. We're not age restricted. If I could afford to live there and occasionally go down for dinner and not cook, I would be there, just like everybody else who's going to choose this particular lifestyle. These are younger, more active, more affluent. They want to be a part of a vibrant urban setting. They don't want to just sit in their apartments. They want to be able to go out to restaurants, go to shops, go to theaters, go out to entertainment. And they don't necessarily want to cook every night once they're retired. They want to live that resort lifestyle. It's a lifestyle choice, just like it's a choice that I don't want to have to do the lawn anymore. I want to live in a condo. And our third building, we are going to have market units that anyone can buy. The experience that Avenir has had in Canada shows that there's a crying demand for this new type of housing. I've done zoning for a long time. I've represented a lot of assisted living communities. I've represented very few that are this independent, active retiree lifestyle community. It's a new product. It's going to be right in your downtown. The reason Les chose this location was the Stadium Village. That's a draw. That's a place where people want to be. It brings families, guests, people who visit, people who will enjoy all of those amenities. Now, again, you're seeing this trend in downtowns all over the valley, whether it's Phoenix, Scottsdale, Tempe, condos. People want to be part of an urban setting. If they want to go to the Symphony, they don't want to have to drive in from North Scottsdale or Carefree. I have friends who moved up there. Half of them have moved to downtown Phoenix or downtown Scottsdale, again, because they don't want to be stuck in a non-happening environment. That's why your Stadium Village is so perfect for this type of community. In addition, the project amenities themselves integrate within your community. These are things we didn't necessarily put into the narrative, but Les's projects typically have a community theater, maybe 100 seats or so. What is that used for? If there's a dance school that needs a place for young kids to put on their performances, plays, scouts, those kinds of activities, it's open to the community so that the community can use it. It's not exclusively for people who live within the diamond. If they want to bring in an entertainer, then the public is invited. The dining element of the community, guests can be brought in by the residents. Their families come in. Once a month at least, the public, the general public, our neighbors, people who live around us, are invited to join us for brunch on a Sunday. So again, this is not an exclusive, gated, and I've heard that concern that we don't want any facilities down here in our urban village that gate off the rest of the community. We do just the opposite. We're inviting the community in. Outdoors, we'll have bocce courts. We're going to try to arrange a place for that. Again, bocce tournaments, that's something people from the community do and would be able to join in. We have a life trail, which is like a park-like facility within our courtyard with 7 exercise stations. We're not gated. People who live around us can walk through, can use those facilities. We're not going to stay out. Now, if people start abusing it, obviously, we won't let people abuse it. But again, we're going to be part of that community, part of that urban village. We have our tot lot that you heard about. Les is so enthused about that, he's putting it in all of his communities now. That was a real good suggestion that staff had. Now, it is a legitimate question. How do we fit into this Stadium Village? You all have been given Kierland Commons images of active, vibrant entertainment, shops, dining, etc. And that's why I asked Adam to leave this up on your screen. This is 70 acres. If you look at the Orchids PAD, which set forth the vision for this area, Goal 7, diverse housing, creative subdivision design in all price ranges. A balanced community that provides a wide range of opportunities for people to live, work, and play in a sustainable form. Some of the potential uses, and I'm reading right out of your PAD document, which set forth your vision, include hotel, office, retail, entertainment, higher density residential such as condos, townhomes, patio homes, and actual land use will be determined by market demand. So what we're doing was contemplated within this PAD. In the PAD document, the city excluded a number of uses that you didn't want, but you didn't exclude this use. You said all of the uses that are allowed in R2 and R3, including those that require a conditional use permit, are allowed in this PAD. We think we're very consistent with that vision. We think we will complement and enhance the Stadium Village. And I can't put this up here, but I looked for an aerial of Kierland Commons, and let me just tell you what it shows you. In the center is Kierland Commons. There are some lofts above the retail, but there is multiple family. All of that density supports the shopping, the dining, the entertainment that you have in Kierland Commons. That is the same vision that you had for Stadium Village. Again, it's a vision which we studied very carefully. We worked very hard with staff to be consistent with that vision. Part of that vision, though, is if you look at where we are adjacent on our west, we are right next to single-family homes. We are an ideal transition use from the intensity of the commercial uses and the apartments, far more intense, far more traffic, far more activity. We provide the perfect transition to single family. We're really an ideal use in this location. Again, staff has emphasized to us that there is an urban village character that the city wants in this area. That includes how we treat Paradise Lane and Parkview on our perimeter. There's a consistent landscaping theme on both perimeters, up and down, that identify us as part of that village. Additionally, and that includes streetscape, landscaping, street furniture, all of which is consistent, making us part of that urban village. The staff encourage us to activate our street frontages, so we have balconies and patios facing the street. We are not like the single family across from us, where the backyards are to that street. That's a suburban form. We're an urban form. Our patios, our dining rooms, all of that are on the street front so that we give you that urban feel that you've wanted. We also believe that at some point, I mean, we're 4 stories on all of these buildings. Staff encouraged us to go vertical. Staff would have liked us to go more vertical. What I'd like to suggest to you is we'd like to go more vertical. If we have demand, we'd like to go to 6 stories on maybe some of these buildings. We'd like to think that we can do that with a staff approval because we've already gotten our conditional use permit, and that extra height would be consistent with your urban form. We know that if we do that, we probably need to do more underground parking. Right now, we're going to have underground parking under Building 3 and surface parking serving the rest of the buildings. Again, we complement and enhance your stadium village. We support the demand for the restaurants, the shops, and the entertainment that haven't come there yet. But we're creating, as Jason says, that critical mass that will support that demand. At a time when development, not just in Surprise, but in many places, is at a virtual standstill, Les is bringing in a $100 million investment to your community that will create jobs and that will put this property in the right position by creating the demand for the next wave of commercial development that will occur. It's just a matter of time. Again, just to summarize, this use meets the intent of your PAD. It's consistent with the vision of Surprise for the Stadium Village. It is an allowed use under the PAD, and it meets all conditional use permit criteria. There is no threat to the public health, safety, or welfare, especially as it relates to traffic, because this use is a low traffic generator. That's one of the things that makes it such a good neighbor for the adjacent single family. So we are asking for your concurrence with the staff recommendation of approval and that you will grant our conditional use permit this evening. We'll answer any more questions that you might have.
Thank you. Commissioner Rain?
At the advice of the city attorney, I'd like to recuse myself for a potential conflict of interest.
Very good. Commissioner Chapman?
Yes, could you tell me a little bit more about the 25% or 80 to 88 unit service?
Adam, could you put on our site plan, blow up the site plan? And I think that'll help me explain it a little bit better.
Is that one better?
That one's absolutely better. On the screen, you will see at the corner of Parkview and Paradise, there's a beautiful entry statement. And the first building, which is somewhat of a U-shaped building that will be constructed, that is a 163 unit, although it could grow a little bit if we change the size of the units. We could actually have a few more. And that is all what we would call our senior apartments, our independent living apartments. None of that is an assisted living component. The building on the far, and remember north is that way. Oh, good. This building, we have asked for being able to do up to 88, what we're calling senior suites with enhanced services, a little bit more of the personal care services. No Alzheimer's, no locked off units, nothing like that. Just the assistance with the tasks of daily living, but that does require a license in the state. Depending upon market demand, we may not need all of those to be 88. We've said that we are retaining the flexibility for part of that building would be just simply straight senior apartments as well. The third building that we're constructing, which is on the north end, this building, is all senior apartments, no personal care services component. And Lance, is that 88 units? That's also 88 units. So we're less than a third, a fourth or so of the opportunity to do the suites with enhanced services. The third building is intended to, as much as possible, be what in Canada is called market units. We would call them condos that would be for sale. And the other components would be leased. The other two buildings would be leased.
Some of the benefits you mentioned are regarding their activities of these residents in the community, restaurants, and baseball and so on. You also have a food service program there, and how does that work? Do people buy in for so many meals?
There's a minimal 10 meals a month. You can buy as few as 10 meals a month. A lot of the residents, they're full kitchens in these units, so a lot of the residents cook. Sometimes they don't feel like cooking. It's like going down to the hotel dining room. They can meet their friends there, they can socialize. But what Les has found in his communities in Canada, all of which are in urban areas like this one, on shopping streets, next to shopping centers, in downtown, is that 2 to 3 times a week, a month, less week, the residents do dine out. And so that's why we think there's support for the restaurants and the shopping. Also, what we found, I mean, I visit my mom in the assisted living place where she lives in Louisiana. It's not very appealing. It's not a luxury surroundings, so that you go there to be with the person you're with. Because of the design of these buildings, because they're like luxury hotels, their visitation rates are a lot higher. There's a lot of activity. Families come, friends come. It's like inviting friends to your country club. So it's a whole different feel, a whole different ambiance from what all of us are familiar with as a standard assisted living community.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Commissioner Hallen.
As I understand it, anybody could live
Yes,
in
sir.
this development.
It's not age restricted. Anyone can. If my husband and I, who both work before we retire, we could decide, you know, this is a pretty cool lifestyle. You can go down to dinner. You don't have a yard to maintain. You've got a lot of amenities. You've got built-in socialization at any age. Our average age in the regular senior apartments is 75. In assisted living facilities, the average age is 85. We're a much younger group, and that's why we're not age restricted. We got a lot of folks who are well below that age, 50s and 60s.
And you said that if you live there, you only have to buy 10 meals a month?
That's the minimal program. You have a range. You have all of these offer a menu of. You could buy as few as 10 per month, and you could buy more.
So, I mean, so people could go out to eat and stuff.
Absolutely. And another really lovely feature about this facility, normally in other kinds of facilities, breakfast is served from 7 to 9, lunch from 1 to 2, or 12 to 2, dinner from 5 to 7. This is all day, all time dining. I can drop in there at 10 o'clock and get food service. I can come in at 9 o'clock at night. I don't know how late you stay open, Les. Usually around 8. So again, it's think of it as living in a resort hotel. I mean, that's the model that Les has used because he realized that other models don't work for today. 75 isn't what it used to be.
Oh, when you get to the point where you have to eat in the dining room, you're not very active. But
Right.
if you to the dining rooms I've been to, and so that's why I was wondering.
Right. This is a different program. You can buy a minimal meal participation.
I want to ask staff something.
Sure.
Well, where are we? We don't have to approve a site plan or anything for this. Is that?
No, this actually is a site plan that you see before you, but the case, it's a conditional use permit. But that's the case name, but it actually is a site plan approval, and you're approving a use as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask about the site then. It isn't going to be fenced in, is that right? It'll be open, except on the side that's.
Yeah,
There's another
there's not going to be any
development.
gated
No
gated
gates or
entrance
anything.
along Paradise or along Parkview, and they're going to actually have their some patios and active space along the adjacent streets.
Okay.
So it's not going to be like a walled-in community. They're very, and the developments that are adjacent to it, they're going to have some wrought iron fencing, or some, that already came before the commission adjacent to the property. With there's going to be actually an emergency access point opportunity to the east, but.
Have we approved what's to the north, or is that?
Yes, to the north is the lofts at Parkview. They got approved a couple months ago.
Okay.
They're an owner-occupied townhome, 107 units.
So this is surrounded by residential already.
Yes, here we go. Yeah, that show to the north here is that lofts at Parkview project.
And this is another one we approved to
Yes, the residences at Stadium Village here to the east.
Okay.
They're along the Stadium Way with a Main Street feel to it.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Binnick?
I have some questions for staff too. Regarding the usage and the 10 to 15 acres for entertainment.
Yes.
I'm sure you've already told me, but the Keystone project, how many acres are we looking at that's going to be slated for the entertainment purposes there?
There's slated to be 17 acres. There's 17 acres left undeveloped on the Crestone site. They're going through a site plan amendment now, and also there's a proposed planned area development amendment which would restrict uses there to ensure that the entertainment, the retail will develop there. The residential has a cap to it. In this area, there's only 1,150 units allowed, and in the Crestone site, if anything, they would be residential over retail, but we're actually doing an amendment to that to ensure that 17 acres is going to be developed as entertainment, retail, and maybe residential if it's over a retail component.
Okay, and my next question was, how many residential units do we already have from the 2 existing residential developments that have already been approved?
We have approximately, if this project is approved tonight, we'll have approximately 850 to 900 units.
So pretty much right at that cap?
Yeah, we're close to the cap. There'll be about 200 to 250 units left available if there were the property on Lot 5 north of Lofts at Parkview. There was some interest in potentially bringing that in to mimic the Lofts at Parkview, so with owner-occupied housing. But there would be about 200 to 250 units left available, either potentially on Lot 5 or if they had residential over a retail component on the Crestone site.
Go ahead.
So basically, we're doing that to ensure that there is that entertainment, that we do have the 10 to 17 acre component for retail to serve the residential. So that's strongly worded in the PAD to make sure there's a mix of uses. And having 70 acres, we feel that your site is 7 acres, about 8 acres. Of the 70 acres is about 10% of the site, which isn't a substantial amount and would actually, on an economic basis, talking to economic development, is they have disposable income and they'll create daytime traffic for restaurants and retail during the day there, as well as attract retail and entertainment because of the number of units that are within walking distance. And my understanding is also the Diamond Resort is going to have escort service where they can drive. Oh, a van. Yeah, with a van they can take people places, and if they have trouble, maybe if they're not mobile, they can drive them, even though it's a matter of a quarter of a mile or something. They will have services where they'll be able to be taxied around.
And the staff has made sure that we had ample pedestrian connectivity to the main Stadium Village entertainment, shopping, dining area.
That leads into my next question. Where is it going to connect? Because I understand that this isn't going to be a fenced-in project, but you mentioned that the lofts on Parkview, those are fenced in?
I'll zoom in here. Connectivity to the adjacent parcels. Let me get it zoomed up. We have if I could zoom in on that. Oh, here we go. Paradise Lane, they'll actually, to walk to any of these areas, they'll have to walk to Paradise Lane over to Stadium Way here. And the other option is to walk down Parkview. Let me zoom out here.
Young Street.
Parkview to Young Street. And each one of those sidewalks, Paradise Lane, Young Street, Young Street's going to have on-street parking with tree grates. So it's all going to be an urban type of environment. And also Paradise Lane, we're going to work with the applicant to create street furniture, benches along there, decorative type sidewalks with trees every 20 feet that are more urban style to promote connectivity and pedestrian connectivity around it.
So there's no way to make that connectivity within the stadium village. Someone would have to actually
Right.
go all the way around.
Yeah, currently there's no pedestrian connection. They couldn't walk through the apartment area here or walk through this portion here to the lofts. There's no pedestrian connectivity.
There's no
through there.
plans for a sidewalk, for example, separating all the different developments to take them to Stadium Way?
No, not between the lofts, the residence end. The only connection to Stadium Way would be the connection that aligns with Parkview on Young Street there. Young and Parkview would be the internal connection. I think that's about 300 feet away from the site.
And again, that was established before we even came to the city. I mean, we have no problem if people from the apartments want to walk through us. I mean, we're open, but we can't force that on others.
Any other questions?
No further question.
Vice Chair Summers?
Yes, just a couple of questions. One of them is as parking of the individual phases.
Yes.
And the plan shows adequate parking for the entire site, but I'm wondering, as far as the phase development, how that works.
What I'd like to do is maybe if you can go over the phasing and what. Yeah.
Right. And maybe, Adam, I'll let you bring up the site plan
Sure.
so I can explain it.
There we go. That one might work better.
Yeah, I think that actually does it. Our surface parking is adequate for building, oops, let me use your mouse, building what we're calling Building 1 and Building 2. When we get to Building 3, we have to construct underground parking. The intent would be, and during that process, I think you rightly identified, underneath in this area, while we're constructing, we would temporarily lose some parking spaces during construction. So the idea would be to build, the intent would be to do buildings 2 and 3 together, because the only point at which we would have about 52 spaces short is if we built Building 2 before we built Building 3. So the intent would be to build them together. When we build Building 1, it is sufficient. It probably has more parking than it actually demands, and then we would phase 2 and 3 so that they would go in together, and at all times we would have adequate parking.
Okay.
Add to that. The actual phasing plan as well, when they submit for building plans, staff is going to have to review the phasing plan and make sure that each building has enough parking. And they usually, a lot of times phasing comes in with the building plan submittal, which is after the entitlement. And we do ensure that there is enough parking for each building as it comes in, and it's safe, where it's fenced off, where you can't, people aren't parking into construction areas and things of that nature. But hopefully that answers your question.
Okay. Yeah, yes, it does. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Madam Chairman, I have one more question. Is that right?
Go right ahead.
It's for staff once again. Just to clarify, what encompasses the Creastone property again? Does that take us from Young Street to Bell, or does it also include the property that is just north of the Holiday Inn?
Okay. Yeah, let me see if I could show you here. The Crestone site is from Bell Road to the north, which is here, and it goes down towards this portion here. Actually, it goes further south of Young Street. It cuts across, so it's this square here, which is the Crestone site, the 17 acres.
So it doesn't abut to the Holiday Inn property?
It actually is. It's adjacent to the Holiday Inn Express property.
Okay.
It abuts right here to it. And
Right.
the Holiday Inn Express is right here.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any of this? Okay. I think it looks like a great project. So at this time, this does require a public hearing, and if anyone would like to speak on this? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for an action, please.
I move to approve CUP 07-297, conditional use permit for the Diamond Resort Retirement Community, subject to stipulations A through M and the findings of fact.
May I have a
Second.
second?
Second.
Okay. And we're going to start with you, Commissioner Rain. You have subsided. Commissioner Chapman.
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Bennick?
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to have a call to the public where if you have something that you would like to discuss that has not been on the agenda, seeing none, I'd ask my fellow commissioners, does anyone have any current event reports that they would like to share? Seeing none, I'm going to adjourn the meeting.